Hello again, and welcome into another edition of Upon Further Review right here, coming after week number 8, after sectional draws. There's a lot going on. There was a lot going on Friday night as we saw Snyder get another victory over Bishop DeWanger, and the Panthers dominated basically the second half of that game. We'll talk a little bit about that later. I'm going to talk to a couple student athletes as well. TJ Snow from Southside and Mr. Roach from Adam Central High School, as well as the Jets have kept on rolling, after their trip up against Garrett week 1. But I think we can honestly say now that Garrett is a pretty darn good football team. So I'm not sure that was a bad loss, as that maybe somebody may thought it would have been because it was a first week game. But nevertheless, we're rolling to the end of the year. Carroll has firmly captured the Summit Athletic Conference Championship this past week after Lures got beat again last week, not this week, but last week. But on top of that, Eric, we've had Mr. Eric Dukevich is here with us. And we also want to say hello to all those joining on 1380 The Fan 100.9 FM. Appreciate your patronage as well. Controversy has ruled this season of high school football in the Fort Wayne area. And it came and crept its set up again in the East Noble or the Leo versus Columbia City game, where essentially a field goal was blocked. An inadvertent whistle was supposedly blown, as after the block, a Columbia City player picked the ball up, ran into the end zone. That play was negated, and a replay of down was done that led to Stratton Fuller making a catch on the boundary in the end zone to give Columbia City the big win. We weren't there. We can't sit here and say with absolute certainty what all happened or occurred. The inadvertent whistle rule, that is correct. Any inadvertent whistle that happens on a play, it is a replay of the down. I saw some things on Twitter where people say, well, they got a 5th down and all that. Well, not necessarily. You got a replay of the last down. And then the problem with what that occurred on Friday night is with the block field goal, as long as the ball, when blocked, remained behind the line of scrimmage, any team is free to pick the ball up and advance it. Once the ball passes either the neutral zone or across the line of scrimmage into the blocking team's area of the field, the only people that can pick that ball up and return it is the defending team, or in this case, Leo. If Carroll Columbia City would have gone and touched it, that would have been a dead ball. This is how we coached a field goal attempt every time we addressed it. If you block it, pick it up and run, because even if you get hit and fumble, because it's a free kick and it's beyond the pass the line or in the kicking team's area of the field, you have no liability if something were to happen. If it goes beyond the line of scrimmage, you treat it like a punt and you use your special words to say, get away from it. Because if it hits you in that scenario as a receiving team or the defensive team, how you want to look at it, it becomes a free ball. So in this case, because it was supposedly behind the line of scrimmage, they returned it for a touchdown. That's where the controversy started, with the whistle being blown. East Noble came off the field thinking the game had ended, because it was kind of the last play when you think of it, right? Yeah. And therefore, that's where the controversy started, is being that the last play and assuming the play was dead.
Yeah, absolutely. And realistically, it was a great game all night long. I mean, Columbia City officially wins the game 18-15. It comes down to that. The two components there in the end were the blocked field goal and kind of where it landed, number one, and how it all kind of, and then also to that, the inadvertent whistle and what that means for the play of the game. And, Jeff Lytle, who's an area official, because a lot of people have their opinions on it. He did take to social media, and I'm going to pull this up real quick. Just there was a lot of conversation back and forth, and so his first note on that. He's an IHSA official, does football and basketball across the area. The play is dead when the whistle blew. So whatever was on the clock when the whistle blew is what should have been on the clock when they replayed the down.
Yeah, irregardless if it's the end of your game.
I should go back one more, and this is a conversation with other people. Because the officials blew the play dead after the kick, you by rule have an inadvertent whistle. So Columbia City has the option of taking the results of the play. So there's another added element. Taking the results of the play when the whistle blew, which was a blocked field goal, or you replay the down. No time on the clock. He says you can't end the game on a inadvertent whistle or an accepted penalty. So basically it was an untimed
it's theoretically, it's just like a defensive penalty at the end of a half. You have to play one time undown. So inadvertent whistle is the same way. But if I find it hard to believe that there was no time on the clock, because inadvertently the ball would have gone back to where that ball was touched, and the clock would have been back to where that actually occurred. So, but anyway.
Well, anyway, and so and he was quick to also point out, again, Jeff Lytle, area says IHSA referee. High school has a lot of rules people do not know. They just make up their own. So that is quite the exclamation point on that remark. And we know Jeff, and a great referee, a lot of great referees. And I tell you, I think what's frustrating, Coach, and you're the coach, you coached a long time and you've had your fair share of frustrations with referees. And it's just, it shouldn't take having to leaf through a rule book to enjoy a high school football game. And I think that's where we get lost in the minutia of, and there's so many things when they go to the rules analysts on NFL games and things like that. And it's just like, think about 50 years ago, 60 years ago, when some of the greatest to ever play, think of how many different results would have happened if so anyway, but, and they don't do replay, obviously, but, with everybody having streams now and stuff, that might be the next thing. So, video.
I'm trying to get it, but we'll see if it all works out. But no, I here's the thing, and I get what Jeff's saying. Even coaches, for the matter of fact, can I sit here and say that I know every single rule of a rule book? No, I don't. Should I, if you are a coach, or if you are, a parent or that, should you know the rule book? I would say the coaches probably need to know it.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've been out of it for a few years, I know a lot has changed. Sure. Sometimes though, the interpretation of what happened gets misdiagnosed per se, and you get a lot of different versions before you get to the actual truth of what happened. And I didn't even know the fact that the officials had to go through the rule book on that, because the inadvertent whistles thing is a pretty well established rule that has never changed. I mean, that has never changed. So if they automatically ruled it an inadvertent whistle, then there shouldn't have been this whatever. Now, I know that you said there were some other instances of what was said or how it was said as it pertains to the inadvertent whistle and what actually happened. And all I said was, are they sure that it never crossed either the neutral zone or across the line of scrimmage into Leo's territory, and maybe have hit somebody and came back across the line of scrimmage? Because in that case, it would have been a dead ball.
Yeah. Well, and I think
would not have been able to advance it, and then you would not have had an inadvertent whistle, and they would have gotten away with it because it actually was blown dead.
Well, and the funny thing is too, and we can move on and talk about some of the other games, but I think what's interesting about it is that game ended in a blocked field goal or whatever, heads up play by the Columbia City player.
Absolutely.
And kudos to both sides. It was a very hotly contested game, two very good teams. you look at some of the video replays, and Brett Fox is giving it to
Mhm.
the refs, and Jason Dorfler. At the end of the game, it seemed like cooler heads prevailed. Everybody shook hands. It was almost like the acceptance of the explanations that they got, even as unfortunate as it may have been, that there was some acceptance, at least publicly on the field, from both teams to that. It's a tough pill to swallow if you're Leo, but ultimately, too, I think it was a good night for Columbia City. They get the win, and we saw a really good game out there, and kudos to them. And to that point, and we'll talk to a Southside player here in a little bit, but that Lures Southside game ended on a blocked extra point. And I noticed the first thing that the Southside, Dietrich Smith, who blocked the field goal, first thing he did was picked up the ball, or either jump on it or pick it up or scoop it. So in his mind, the play wasn't over, because you play until you hear the whistle, which a lot of people were saying. You hear the whistle, you think the game is over. Then they went back and did it because it was inadvertent. But
and that's the thing I think that got everything crazy on this, because they shouldn't have blown the whistle, just like in the Southside game, even though it's an extra point. You may be able to return it back for what the actual attempt was, a point or 2 points, or however that rule, that rule that says in a PAT, you can return it as the defensive team for a 1 point score on a PAT if they go for 2 points. But they didn't blow the whistle on that one.
No,
that just goes to show you, like you had said earlier, making sure the play is completely done. In that regard. So
a lot of good. That was an interesting game. It's a talker. It's something they're going to talk about for a long time. Some other big games, obviously, for the most part, the conference races have been wrapped up. So we want to give a congratulations to Carroll. They win the SAC championship with their win over Northrop, and Southside beating Lures, which we'll talk a little bit about. And also in the NE8, East Noble wins to stay undefeated in that conference. And so they have wrapped up the NE8 by virtue of at least a share of it, I guess you could say, because there's one more week. So they've clinched a share. ACAC goes to Adams Central with their dominant for Bluffton. And then in the NECC, Busco had already wrapped up their small division title last week. Their small games are over. They went to played West Noble and lost, but Garrett runs the table. They're still undefeated at 8-0. They're big champions, and quite a story there as well. So want to shout out all those conference champions. And of course, we were at Snyder versus Bishop Dwenger, and an old-fashioned rivalry that was not the greatest version of that rivalry on Friday night, but ultimately Snyder gets the win, pulls away late. Braylon Burton with a big game.
He's good.
Burton, good solid performance all around for Snyder late in that game, and they get the big win. And Southside, I mean, probably the win of the night. Coach beating Lures 14-13 in the Calhoun Street Brawl, and a big win for them. They get on a little bit of roll now. They've got the 2 wins on the season. They beat Concordia earlier in the year. Lots of positive, and at this time, I think we'll go ahead and bring on our first guest here. Joining
go ahead. Let's bring TJ on.
Southside Archers. We have TJ Snow.
How you guys doing?
How are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you guys?
So good. Thanks for joining us tonight here on Upon Further Review. And first of all, talk about that win. We'll start there. A huge win for Southside on Friday over Bishop Lures, the reigning co-champions of the SAC. The blocked extra point, we talked about it a little bit earlier. What was that feeling like Friday night, that big win and just that continued momentum that Southside is starting to find and kind of rebuilding that program?
It was just so surreal, and especially for me and Coach Dre coming from Lures my freshman year, it was something special. We've been working so hard during the season and the off season, all summer. We've been working hard. So for it to finally pay off, even though it did after our win over Concordia, just to come and beat a good team like Bishop Lures, it was just great.
Sure. Now, for you, you're not playing. You're done for the year. Had an injury in the Snyder game. We want to, how are you doing? How is your recovery coming along? Just kind of where you are after a pretty serious injury a couple weeks ago.
I'm doing a lot better. I'm just now getting cleared to, start working out and start back hitting the gym. I will be, doing my rehab and getting back in the gym at Traction AP and my father's business AIM. I'm just happy to still be here, happy to be up and moving around. It could have been a lot worse than what it is. So I'm just happy that I'm all right.
Absolutely. Well, we're glad that you're okay too, and the high spirits. Talk about this team. I mean, you're kind of a coach now, really, in a lot of ways, just by virtue of being out there and cheering on the guys, a cheerleader, a coach, unable to play. For this Southside team, you mentioned it. You and Coach Goodwill have come over from Lures, second season for Coach. Got the one win a year ago against Concordia, a win here this year against Concordia. Now you followed up with a win over Lures. Talk about the growth of this team and really the improvement that you guys are seeing almost week to week and how fun it's been for you guys.
We've just been trying to grow each week, like you said. Even from last year, we've grown so much. Even though we won the 7-on-7s and stuff last year too. Just coming into this year, we were a lot more confident in what we could do and the team that we have been putting together. And like Coach Dre says, we try to get better each week, and just going out and playing our hearts out every single week, just trying to get better and trying to change the culture around Southside.
Sure. You're a sophomore, a lot of sophomores, younger guys, juniors on this team, a young group. The significance for you guys with Coach, that younger group kind of thrown into the deep end, so to speak, of the SAC. Not a lot of seniors last year and all of that. The growth there, I mean, how significant has that been for just getting the varsity reps together as a team, as a young team, and where this program will be in another year or two?
This is my junior year, actually.
A junior.
Wow. Yeah. So we had a lot of young guys, on our squad. So really just trying to find the team chemistry and just build our relationship as brothers on the football team. So really just trying to, put it all together and show it on a Friday night.
Sure.
TJ, why don't you talk a little bit about Coach Goodwill, the staff in general, and kind of what they've laid on your guys as it pertains to expectations. I know that you guys have done a lot with the 7-on-7s and things of that nature, but it just doesn't start there. What what is it that he's done to reinstill that fire to do things, the unexpected things, the things that people don't see you guys doing, to be your best selves?
All week in practice, he pushes us really hard. Our whole coaching staff does. My father is the OC, and I have almost the whole coaching staff are made up of all of my uncles. So, competitive spirit that they hold us to. So really, it's just about pushing us each week, every single day in practice. My guys put in a lot of hard work, a lot of work that people may not see and may not think that we put in. We have hard days and long practices, and it's just all about working and showing it on a Friday night. And I think Coach Dre and our whole staff really lays that on us really heavy, week by week. Now,
did you guys do you know who you guys drew in the sectional yet?
East Noble.
So that's a big task first week coming up here in a couple weeks. But as you say, and I think what we've seen is the improvement that has led to the big win against Lures, because that was, one of those games that I don't think many people to say, hey, we're going to take Southside over Lures this week. I don't think that was something people expected. The Concordia game, that was a toss of a coin, but this game here, and your performance against Northside really has kind of laid the foundation for the last few weeks of the season to have that expectation of winning and what it takes to do that. Is that kind of how you guys have felt all year long, even though you weren't getting that reward at the end of the week of getting a win?
Yes. Each week we go in every single week looking to win, whether that's the case or not. We work hard all week, like I've been saying. Our expectation is to win. You know, we only held Northside to 6 points, 7 points, and they didn't. Their offense didn't score on us. We made a mistake in the end zone, and that costed them, points. So I feel like, our team is getting better each week, and I just feel like that nobody is really picking us to do anything this year, and I feel like my guys just want to prove them wrong.
Absolutely. Well, TJ, it's been a pleasure to talk to you tonight. I know you're on the men, like we said, and we wish you the best in that. I know you're a track athlete as well, and real quick, what's the future for you as far as athletically? I know you've gotten some offers. What does that look like for you? And maybe there's a little bit of things up in the air yet at this point, but just talk about your career and where it is right now as far as what you've been looking to do and maybe what lies ahead for you.
Right now, I currently have one offer from Siena Heights. That's my only offer right now. And,
Yeah.
I am recovering and doing rehab and starting to get back into the gym and stuff. So I'm really just trying to, work for the springtime, work for track, so I can get ready to go to all these camps and try and get as many offers as I can and then come back and get ready for next year.
Absolutely. Well, we wish you the best, and we're glad that you're doing well and back, being able to get out and get some work in and rehab and get to the gym, and wish you the best of luck in recovery. Congrats to Southside for the season they've had so far. Best of luck for the rest of the year and heading into sectionals, and really pleased to have you on and the opportunity to highlight Southside football.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Good luck, TJ.
Thank you.
That was TJ Snow, the safety and wide receiver from Southside Junior. Who great start to the season for him, coach. Had a touchdown. He was, kind of that one of the leaders on a young team, and then also just statistically was probably going to be a go-to guy this year. And then the unfortunate injury for him against Snyder in a couple weeks back, and good to see him getting back on the mend and not overly serious that he can't recover and do well, because it's a tough when you get injured, especially in the way he was with his back and his some issues with the neck and the head as well, and those are always scary situations. But luckily, great medical staffs around the area that were there to help him. And great to see that he's getting better.
Well, yeah, that's the number one thing, that, he's healthy and becomes that by, doing the necessary rehab that puts him in a position to play next year if that's, available to him. Good kid. You can tell by the way he handles himself that he is a natural leader. And I would guess to say he probably does pretty good in the classroom as well. So I could see how hard that must have hurt the entire team as it pertained to his injury, and not having him a part of it and being a part, especially his last couple of weeks, of being a guy that they relied on. But hey, they've done what they've needed to do this year, and that foundation is getting bigger each and every year. And the kids, I think they're not too far off from being a team that can win, 5-6 games a year and make something of themselves in that B division.
Yeah, and absolutely. And for a team like Southside, and really for all the teams, I mean, with the exception of Northrop, I still think Northrop should be in the B division and Bishop Lures in the A. That's just my personal opinion. But I mean, and I've said that since they created the division. I don't care how big Northrop is, they should be in the B division. And that's just as simple as that. But for Southside and for Wayne and for Snyder and for Dwenger and for Carroll, all those teams, the divisional split is beneficial because you're going to play the guaranteed games in your division and then some crossover games. But like Southside does not need to play Dwenger and Homestead and Snyder and Carroll every year.
No,
but
they don't.
if they play Wayne and they play, Lures, obviously is in their North Side, games that historically speaking, they go, okay, they've got a little bit better of a chance, so to speak. And look, they proved it on Friday night that they can beat some of the big dogs. Lures is a big dog and they beat them. Even though
And then remember last year they had a couple close
and
losses, and
defense for Southside. I mean, not to be overlooked. I mean, 14, they gave 13 to Lures. The previous week in a loss, 6 to Northside.
right.
The previous week in a win, 7 to Concordia. They win 9-7, then they lose 6-0, then they win 14-13. So the defense, especially when you got young guys, I mean, to build your team out from the defense, that's what long term is going to be good for them, because when you get that momentum on defense, the offense will find its place. And if you can make stops, when you're not giving up 42 points a game, that is a huge boost to a team that is learning how to try to get the ball down the field.
Yeah, and the fact that they're young and they've got a lot of young guys, that are mostly juniors, sophomores, and freshmen, I'm assuming. But, that's going to be something to build with. And when you get them in a system and you get kids that have played for 3 straight years, when they become seniors, or 2 straight years when they become juniors, they're only going to be better because they've already done all of the repetition that they've needed to do. It's a matter of honing in on their skill development and things of that nature. So, one thing I forgot before we bring on Jamison here from Adams Central, about the Snyder Dwenger game. I think one thing that probably needs to be said from a Dwenger standpoint is their defense is really good.
Yep.
Dwenger has a very, very good bona fide defense. And if they can find some things that, they've got the Keefs, the kids, they got speed. You got Tippmann on offense that's got speed. If they can find ways offensively just to get something going with them, they got a defense that can hold people to some points. I mean, they held Snyder to, 10 points there prior to the halftime, and that was it. And so I think that needs to be said about that game. We didn't have a really good chance to, talk about it. But anyway, I just want to make that point because it kind of goes hand in hand with what you pointed out about Southside's defense.
Yeah.
You're right. Defense is the thing that if you can play good, solid defense and you can bring the offense along with it, then you're always going to have a chance. And that's the one thing that, when you have good defenses, usually you've got a lot of chances to win.
Yeah, absolutely. So Southside finishes up this weekend with Northrop in the regular season. So a very winnable game for them. And then, like you said, they drew East Noble in Kindleville for week 1 of the sectionals. And so a little bit tough for them. But, they're again playing in the SAC might benefit them at least to a certain extent. But East Noble, as we know, is a very good team. Well, we'll move on in our show here, Coach, and bring in our next guest, joining us from not just the ACAC champion Adams Central Flying Jets, but the 4 straight time ACAC champions, the sophomore quarterback Jamison Roach from Adams Central. Jamison, thanks so much for joining us here tonight on Upon Further Review.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really excited. Thanks for having me out tonight.
No problem. Well, let's start right there. 4-time ACAC champs as a team. I mean, you're a sophomore, so this is your second one in a row. First year as the varsity QB. I mean, talk about just continuing. Is it business as usual for AC? I mean, what has been about this year that you guys are able to kind of keep things going?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the past 3 years before me, we had that really big senior group with Ryan Tester, Keegan Bloom, and Jack Hamilton. They were a big part of our success, and losing them and having to figure out how we're going to lead our own team without them and how we're going to keep winning. Garrett was a struggle first game, and we've moved on since then. We've developed really well as a team and just came a long way, I think. And that's a big part to our winning this year.
Yeah. You guys throttle Bluffton, and throttle, I mean, that's a common word for this team all year long. the development of just the overall. I mean, you guys are a 2A school. You've been to state a couple times in the last couple of years, 4-time ACAC champs. Your wrestling team is good. I mean, these guys are wrestlers. I mean, the athletics, the boys athletics, and really the football team, year after year, that developmental process, you guys start when you're young. What is that like at Adams Central, that by the time you get to your sophomore year at high school, you're thrown in there as the quarterback, and it's like you're a senior and you're picking up, and it's like just like everybody else that's already been there?
Yeah, I think a big part is we've had our youth programs are super strong. We have a flag football program right now. Our DFL, our middle school, they're all really good. They're all really strong, and just all the wrestling whenever we're little, all the Friday night stuff, wrestling, all the little Friday night duels, just preparing us for high school and just making sure we're ready to go and just ready to be thrown in there and just play to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jamison, go ahead. Sophomore quarterback Jamison Roach joining us here from Adams Central. Another championship for the Jets. I guess we can go out and say that because that's what you guys do there. We ought to just rename the conference. I think our sidekick Brett Rump is correct. We just need to name it the Adams Central Conference, Athletic Conference. How about that? You want to do that, Jason? Let's put a target on your back for.
They've already done that down there in Monroe.
Well, you talked about that first game at Garrett, and I think a lot of people just assumed that was a bad loss in some form or fashion. But now we can say Garrett was a pretty darn good football team that you played week one. It was no slouch. It was no, team that you just went up to because they were the only ones that would play you. But you guys played a team that's darn good. What was your thoughts of that game up at Garrett? Number one. Number two, what was the message your coach gave you guys afterwards? Because you guys haven't lost, especially an opener, in probably a decade, it seems like, because you guys have won all your regular season games. So, one, talk about that game in particular, what your thoughts on of it, and what was coach's message to you guys afterwards?
I think going into that game, we had a good game plan, but we just couldn't all put it together as a team. It was a struggle. We struggled a little bit that night, and just trying to play as one. First summer as me being a quarterback, just trying to play as one big team and one fluent team that kind of struggled a little bit. We were off and on throughout the entire night, and that just didn't help. And number two, what a big thing Coach Moser said to us was that Monday in film, we started off with a speech that coming East Side, that either it's going to be a step up or a step back from where we are right now. And if we want to be a great team, not just a good team, we have to take a step forward and not a step back.
Now, talk about the offense a little bit here. And let's face it, you're not going there to be the quarterback at Adams Central and sling it all around the field like most quarterbacks would love to do. And I'm sure you're one of them. And if you think talk about what you guys do offensively, because it is a very difficult offense to perfect. And is it something that you guys talk about, your youth programs and things like that? Is this type of offense something you guys do from the time you're in a football uniform there in Adams Central's district?
Yeah, all the way through, we run the same exact offense. Like my little brother, he's on the DFL team, and he's running the wing tee. He's a 4-back right now. He's running it too. So we've been running the offense throughout for forever. But yeah.
Well, that's the thing that I think people don't understand, because your success, people say, well, they lost all these guys. And so what was a simplistic, just kind of a reload? Everybody just assumed this was a rebuild because of the number of athletes you guys lost. And the reality of it is there's nothing to rebuild other than to reload, because you guys have been doing the same stuff for a number of years. And that's why you guys are so good at what you do as an offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a big part also of our offense is we have so many different weapons. With me as a quarterback, I can throw and run. Then we have Aaron, who's really good. And we have Matt as our fullback. We just have so many different weapons, and it's just hard to stop all of us. All our stats are spread throughout our entire offense. And our offensive line come a long way since the first game. they're blocking amazing. They've played amazing. And then Braylon Reber as a receiver, he's nice to be able to throw to. And then Max, their tight end. It's just we have so many different weapons. It's hard to stop all of them. That's what makes us a really good team too. I feel like
absolutely. And I know that Coach Mosier considers the toss lead play that you guys run quite a bit as probably a pass, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That helps your average a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, Jamison, it was a pleasure to talk to you tonight. Like I said, Adams Central continues to roll another ACAC championship. You guys close out the regular season this week, and then it's on to sectional play where you drew Bluffton again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be an intriguing
Wow.
sectionals in Monroe. So it's in Bluffton. I'm sorry. You guys played in Bluffton last week in the regular season. Or I'm sorry. Let me rephrase it all. You got Bluffton at Adams Central last Friday, and then the sectional game will be Adams Central at Bluffton. So
that doesn't seem right.
hatches on that one yet again. And you know it. From here on out, everybody you play is going to be a tough game. You guys are state runner-up. I mean, we don't want to forget to mention that. What is that? 3 years in a row now?
Yeah, 3 years state runner-up.
Indy
Lutheran.
You moved up, and so did Indy Lutheran.
Yeah.
I don't need to remind you of that, but also too, you guys are a really solid team, and we're glad to have you on tonight to talk Adams Central, and it's good to include you guys too. So best of luck to the Flying Jets the rest of the way, and we certainly will be watching. And you know, the coolest thing about you guys, I think I've said it before, you take on all comers and say bring it, and until somebody knocks you off, you guys are king of the hill. So congrats. And you guys have worked to get there, and it's really impressive what you and Coach Mosier and the whole staff and team have been able to do. So thanks for joining us tonight, Jamison.
Thank you. It was fun.
All right, Jamison, tell Coach Mosier to give you a little love and let you put the ball in the air a little bit, right?
All right, I will. I'll do that.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yep, that was Jamison Roach, the quarterback for Adams Central, sophomore. I mean, just basically playing JV a year ago, Coach, to be thrown in that situation, like you mentioned, we kind of thought it was a rebuild year in some respects. We weren't sure if it was like the full-blown rebuild year.
Right.
Week 1 happens, they lose 20-7 to Garrett, and so it's like, oh, wow. And then we've seen what has happened for both Garrett and Adams Central since then. That was definitely not a bad loss. And in fact, it probably helped them because they realized real quickly, you know, it's kind of that first game out of conference measuring stick. And when you lose a lot and have a lot back, it's not just, oh, we did refill it. We got to go out and play. And they've dominated everybody since.
Yeah. You know, I heard Nick Saban talk about this thing on College Game Day this past couple of weeks, and he had texted Kirby Smart after they had lost to Alabama and said, this may be the best thing that happened to you. And sometimes coaching off a loss is a better thing to do, especially when you got a team that's had a lot of success. They've won a lot, and sometimes, you know, they forget that you're vulnerable just like anybody every Friday night, that there's that possibility. If you don't play good enough, you're going to get beat. And having that being said, and the way they approached the next week of that game that they had Eastside coming to town, you know, I think Coach Mosier's talked about, you know, you either want to take a step forward or take another step back. The choice is yours. And ever since then, they've, you know, rolled off 7 in a row. Yeah. 7 in a row. So
71, and I think it's if you go back in time, we can pull this up here. Thanks to John Harrell, a great website, by the way. It's known very much to the media, not always to the fans, but John Harrell's website is fantastic. He does it for football and basketball. A lot of people know about it. Actually in the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame for what he's been able to do with his website. So kudos to him, but got his stuff pulled up here. He's a Huntington guy, by the way, out of Huntington, Indiana, but 14-1 a year ago. Of course, they made it to state. So they ran the table, go to state, run the table, lose at state to Indy Lutheran again. They get tripped up in week 2 against Eastside, but from there, run the table, lose to Indy Lutheran at state, 8-3, 12-2. They get to, you look at these numbers and
Yeah,
Harold
9-3 was their worst season, and that was in 2017.
Yeah, combined yearly records is another thing that he's got, and it's one of those. See if I can pull it up real quick. Where they go back like 5 years. 5 years, 68 and 10. 6 years. I mean, I think it goes back. The furthest he goes back, we'll go back 12 seasons, 130 and 34. Just by, look where Snyder is, 114 and 27. So, Leo, another great, team out there. So this is a team that, has been a force to be reckoned with in the ACAC, a force to be reckoned with in Class 1A. They now move up to Class 2A. And let's face it, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with there too, because Lures moved up too. They were the state champs. They moved up to 3A. It's, in some respects, Adams Central has kind of slid into that Lures spot. And so all those teams that go, oh, Lures moves up. Oh, guess what? Now you have Adams Central in your sectional, and we're going to have Adams Central Bluffton in round 1. That's the way the ping pong balls flew. If you can see my quotes, because that's what they say. So, well, that's a whole other topic. But anyway, yes, that's the draw. We'll say the sectional draw, Bluffton and Adams Central. And so, yeah, that'll be a fun matchup.
But that's right. You're right there, though, dude. I mean, again, this is what probably we talk and beat to the dead horse every year. There is no reason why Belmont and Adams Central are playing week 1 of the sectional. That's not fair to either team that had pretty darn good years that could ultimately, one of them's going to be out of the tournament. Now, would it ultimately eventually happen down the road in that bracket? Perhaps.
Yeah.
But the fact that those kids are playing each other the week 1, I don't get it. I just really don't get it. And to say that they can't seed that first round and then let the ping ball, let it all fall from there, to me, that's a big excuse of not trying to do something. So the IHSA, the coaches association, they have to do something to get this right. There's just too many years now that we've seen these things happen, and we're going to go through the playoffs here, probably come next week, we'll get them all set up and lined up. But to me, they got to get something done here. And I know they tried. The Coaches Association did try this past summer, and they put forward a proposals, but the ADs turned it down.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? This is what, okay. I'm going to get on my chair.
That's okay.
We're going to get on our throne here right now.
This is our show. Go for it, Coach.
I understand that there are some out there that are happy when football season's over and they don't want to have to host games. And it's a big
because I know what you mean, and I'm just
it's true.
I'm thinking of it again.
Yeah, let's call a spade a spade. That's what this is about. We need to make things better, not just stick with the same old, but there's no reason why Bluffton and Adams Central are playing week 1. There's just none. And we're going to see that throughout all the brackets, whether it's 5A, 6A, 4A, doesn't matter. You're going to see week 1 matchups that you're going to have 2 of the top teams playing in that bracket. And the reality of the matter is that shouldn't happen. Because if you have a good enough record, you should have a chance to go as far as you can go, but that shouldn't be week 1. We don't need to see sub 500 teams playing each other in the first round, and then that's your sectional championship is one team versus the other team that's not very good, and they get shellacked 60-0. Now, that's, to me, is not the goal of the tournament. The goal of the tournament is to give everybody a chance. But with that being said, give everybody a chance, but seed the first round and just let the chips fall from where they go from there after that into the regionals and all that stuff. But it's gotten to the point to me that that's the only thing I can point to. We've got people out there that don't want to host games and of the playoffs. And there are teams out there that shouldn't be hosting games, but kill to do it because they want that on their campus. And they don't have the facility to handle where we're all at today in today's world of streaming and radio and things of that nature, but they die to have a game at home because they want it, because they want that experience for their student athletes. So that may be a little too harsh, but again, that's the opinion that I get from this tournament, and why the ADs turned down the proposal from the Coaches Association is beyond me.
Yeah. Well, and I think, there are a lot of factors that go, obviously they divide it into class. They have the success factor. They, random draw gets us these matchups, but random draws also get us 0-8 Southern Wells that, I'm just going to say it, well, struggles to score, struggles to get yards. They get a bye in their sectional. There's also another team in that conference in our area, relatively in the region, that is 0-8 in that sectional. So there's two winless teams in that sectional. Like, the geography sometimes is a little, Homestead is not in the 6A sectional with Snyder, Carroll, and Northrop. They're in the sectional with Noblesville, and Elkhart comes in, and I get it. There's 32 teams. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, a lot of things that have to be decided by groups of people. And when you make the bigger the groups and the more decisions and the more people, like you said, who don't want to necessarily host a game, that's what it goes into. And it's by and large, from what I've seen, just kind of looking off the top, I don't think there's, outside of Adams Central Bluffton, there isn't those atrocious matchups where you see like a Leo and an East Noble in a first. I've thought for sure the ping pong balls were going to give us that basically based off of the random draw that happened last Friday night, so to speak. But that didn't happen. I'm okay with that. And that's just perhaps a little bit of
well, this goes back to the discussion of what we had earlier about this game that Columbia City and Leo had Friday night. And while each team played their tails off, and there was unfortunately had to be a loser in that game, in the grand scheme of things, it had no bearing on anything.
No.
Right? The only thing that these guys are playing for is a conference championship each and every week, which I agree, that's part of it. But if you're going to have a tournament where everybody is able to get into it, and you want games to count no matter what time of year it is, that game on Friday night should have counted if you're going to seed the first round, and that would have given the notch to being Columbia City being a 2 seed versus Leo being a 3 seed. But because it's not, we got to go to the ping pong balls, and we're fortunate that we don't have that game in the first round. And again, that's the frustration that I'm sure every coach out there has, the same frustration, because that it doesn't help when you get to the draw. And like you said, Southern Wells, who's 0-8, gets a bye, while a team is 8-1 has to play round one against another team that's 8-1, let's say.
Yeah.
And that's a crime. I mean, in the game of athletics and sports, that is an unfair advantage to someone else in that bracket, that they're playing these games that way. And it just, I guess it's beyond me again. I'll state it again for the facts. It's beyond me why the athletic directors would not take that up to the board to have it voted on, and killed it before it got there.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. You look at the sectional 43 in class 1A is what I was talking about. Southwood 0-8. They do have Triton 6-2. Blackhawk Christian 1-6. Fremont 2-6. Northfield 3-5. Southern Wells gets the bye at 0-8. North Miami's in there too at 6-2. They face Blackhawk Christian. First year for BC to be in it, but then also too, like we mentioned with Adams Central, Busco and Manchester, and then Adams Central and Bluffton, and Eastside and Whitco. Prairie Heights and Central Noble get to play each other again. Yeah. At least there's no buys in that round. But I mean, and you know, we could talk about it till the cows come home about all the different things that are wrong. And I think that's part of the excitement. I said it on the PSM High School Football Tailgate pregame show on Friday, and the Sports Rush, I probably more so on Thursday with Brett Rump, was part of what so everybody makes it, and there is no seating, and should there be, and blah, blah. Part of it is the aura of the basketball tournament from 60 years ago has still carried on, and it kind of has applied itself to football. That, I mean, should every team even be in for football? Ohio doesn't do it that way.
Yeah, they get into this debate.
I mean, they put banners up when they make the playoffs in Ohio, like an NFL team would.
Well, it's a reward. Yeah, it's a reward. And
Indiana,
I think
it's not a
the
reward.
thing that they got away from in Indiana, and we can one way or the other to say one's better or not, I don't know, but you get down to what is the algorithm that's going to decide what somebody's schedule is worth, what their wins are worth, what, all these dynamics on who gets in and who doesn't. And you're always going to have a team that should be in that gets left out under that dynamic because, they're a 10th of a point short versus a team that, is better and maybe have more losses because they played a harder schedule. So either way you look at it, I think the bottom line is like we both agree. You need to seed the first round of the tournament, and then from that point forward, let it be what it is. Because it's a crime to see some of these games that are coming out to be played week 1 of the sectional tournament. And it's not fair to the kids of those schools that have a better record, and they may only get to play one extra game of their senior year, when reality is they should be playing potentially for a sectional championship at the end of that bracket against the best 2 teams in that bracket. But unfortunately it didn't go. So let's
no 3-team sectionals either, or 4 teams in basketball. And I know this isn't a basketball show, but that's sectional. That's East Noble, Northside, Snyder, and Northrop. A 4-team basketball sectional. I mean, 50 years ago, it took Northrop 10 games to win the state title. You're going to tell me a team's going to win a sectional winning 2? Please. I'm sorry. That's basketball. This is a football show. So we'll move on to the remaining games in the regular season.
Yeah, let's get into looking
we're not into the old post-game show for basketball yet. That's another few weeks, but we still got a lot of football. Let's take a look at just our slate of games to wrap up the regular season. We'll kind of roll through some of these and highlight just a few. In the SAC, Homestead at Bishop Luers, Carroll at Northside, Concordia at Dwenger, Snyder at Wayne, Southside at Northrop. Our lead game, the Midwest Box Breaks High School Football Game of the Week on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM, will be Homestead at Luers. We'll get to go back out to Luers. And, there again, a fun matchup that'll be. Largely an end of the regular season game that maybe would carry some weight if Luers didn't win a week ago, but here we are, and that'll be our great game. That'll be a good one out at Luers. Good teams that are trying to find that momentum, coach, and that's what, for a lot of these teams and a lot of these games, looking through the list on Friday, they're looking for that one last bit of momentum heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, every game, I mean, they've got to use this game as a stepping stone to next week, because what you don't want to have is a game that ultimately is sloppy. You struggle to get through it. You have turnovers. You have stupid penalties like jumping off sides and things that you shouldn't be doing in a week 9. And those come to the forefront once again. And it ultimately is something that costs you games in the tournament when you start making stupid mistakes or giving up cheap plays for touchdowns and things of that nature. So every one of these games are potentially a setup for the first week game. The Snyder at Wayne, that'll be a tough battle because Wayne's pretty darn good and they're trying to get themselves ready for the tourney, and they've got to really good chance in the tournament that they're in. And Snyder has to be doing the same thing because their offense is better. It has gotten better when you looked at it, but there were still some things on Friday night that if they do in the tourney, they're going to get beat. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're 6A or not. You can't have turnovers. You can't have, those type of plays. So that game at Wayne, that will be a darn good ball game just from the standpoint is you got two teams trying to make themselves ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Wayne will host New Haven in the first round of sectionals. And then Snyder, of course, being class 6A, they go to Elkhart, but they also have that bye week for everybody in class 5A and 6A. So they will have that week off in between their game at Wayne and then also their sectional game, which is at Elkhart in that sectional 2 matchup. And Southside Northrop will be interesting too, just because Southside, that I think it's another game that they win. NE8, East Noble Conference champions at Belmont. This should be a runaway East Noble game. Columbia City at Norwell. Columbia City, big win a week ago. Norwell struggled all year long. DeKalb at Leo, I think a little bit more intriguing matchup. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Coach, this is the old, we're going to play 2 weeks in a row, guys. DeKalb at Leo to end the regular season on Friday. And then the next Friday, the start of sectionals, it's Leo at DeKalb. So I'll just say that's tough for DeKalb. That's there again. That is, but ultimately when you have that sectional in 19, Southside, East Noble, Leo, DeKalb, Columbia City, Dwenger, New Haven, Wayne, all those teams have basically played each other in some way, shape, or form. So you're going to have repeat matchups. It's just for DeKalb, that's probably the toughest repeat matchup there is because that's
right. And again, should be another criteria of why you need to have them seeded so that doesn't happen.
Especially that conference. I mean, most of those teams are NE8 teams, and we, luckily we don't have any SAC versus SAC matchups that I've seen so far. Just thinking off my head. Anyway. And then New Haven goes to Huntington North. Huntington North, by the way, in that sectional 20, and we'll talk about all the sectional games next week, but they host Frankfort in a sectional 20. Frankfort, Muncie Central, Logansport, Culver, Lebanon, Marion, and Huntington North. So go figure that Huntington North is in this hodgepodge of a sectional. But anyway, ACAC, Adams Central, your champion versus a red-hot Woodland team, Coach. 4 straight wins. 5 wins for the first time since their state runner-up season in 2017. Adams Central, primed for probably a big win in Woodburn, but Woodland has shown some nice things, and that's an intriguing team to watch, especially when sectionals come.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotten better. They're young. And they've still been able to kind of take step forwards here the last, 4 weeks or so of the season. So they got to feel pretty good playing their best football now. And while they're playing Adams Central on Friday night, you never know what could happen in that type of game. Adams Central could be looking past them because they got to get ready for Bluffton the following week. So there's a lot of scenarios there that Woodland, probably feels they got a chance in it.
Yeah, Woodland travels to Tippecanoe Valley, 6-2 for their section opener. So this could be a very good game for Woodland to prime them for that. We also Jay County at Heritage, South Adams at Southern Wells, Franklin County goes to Bluffton in a non-conference game. ACC, not a really strong slate of games. Garrett, the NECC Big Champs, hosts Central Noble. Busco hosts Fairfield. Angola and an East Side lockup in Angola. That might be the best one on the docket for this conference. West Noble travels to Prairie Heights. Lakeland hosts Jimtown, and Blackhawk Christian hosts Fremont in two non-conference games there. So still a lot of football to be played. Somebody told me today, it was my sister, I can't believe we're at sectionals already. And I said, well, sectionals is kind of almost the halfway point of the season realistically, because it takes 14 games to win a state championship. We're through 8 now games, so a long way to go. But Coach, this was fun again. Lots to talk about, lots to digest, and It's going to be a fun one on Friday, and then we look ahead to sectionals. Of course, like we said, Homestead at Lures is our 1380 game of the week, presented by Midwest Box Breaks. The PSM High School Football Tailgate Show starting at 6. The Pizza Hut Scoreboard Show after the game out at the Southgate Pizza Hut. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on Pond for the Review. For the coach, Shannon Griffith, I'm Eric Dutkevich. Have a great Friday night of games, and we'll see you next week right here on A Pond for the Review.